Let's hear what he's about to say to us. Apparently he has a loud voice. Maybe he doesn't need this.
Nah, I don't at all. Right. So can we please dim this or switch it off or cover it? I'll be moving around quite a bit. Awesome. Now, I'm extremely excited to be here today because it's a certain kind of individual that will come to an event like this. You spend your time, you spend your money to be here, and it's for good reason, right? You're the kind of people who want to improve, who understand how to invest your time, who understand that you want to make an impact later on in life. So to do that, I must invest something now. So that really inspires me, it really gets me excited. And I want you to look at the person next to you. Just turn and look at the individual that's next to you. Give them your best smile. Teeth, no teeth, yellow teeth, anything goes. Right? This person is just like you. Just like you, they want to improve their lives. Just like you, they want to make a way forward. So that in itself is special. It doesn't matter how many we are. The point is, influence doesn't work with big numbers. Understand that. It starts off small groups of people who then influence other people. So then I see you guys as leaders and as changers. People who can actually catalyze and move our society forward. Amen. With that being said, please, round of applause. Guys, do better than that. Some space for myself. Right now, going straight into my topic, I want to speak about the decolonization of the mind. A lot has been said about this, but I don't think we thoroughly understand what this actually means. And I want to tell you something, it really hurts me when I look at our society and the way that it is and how it's been, how can I put it, the isms that are in place and how it's currently functioning. For example, you find that on a rainy day, when you're driving from work, you see our people. They're the ones who are running towards taxis, in the open, getting wet. It's our people who are the ones that are suffering. It's our continent with the most resources. And yet we suffer the most, all the time. I started asking myself, what is this? What does this mean? Where does it come from? Because nothing happens in a vacuum. Everything starts somewhere. What we must understand is that in order to truly be liberated and independent, we must understand where do we come from, what happened over here, and where are we today. We always find ourselves in this place where we say we've got so many problems and then we don't say anything about solutions. Why? Because we haven't understood where we've come from in the first place. In order to decolonize ourselves, we must understand what is this thing called colonization. What is this system? What has it done to us? What consequences are we still living today because of back then? Right? Guys, look alive. Right? Excellent stuff. So I want to start off with, I just want to cover 3 topics in particular. First, looking at colonization. Secondly, I want to go into something called the collective unconscious. The third element that I want to tackle is then how do we break out of this insignificance? How do we make a change, a difference in our lives, in our society, in our country, in the community, and in the continent most of all? I think that everyone should be actually following us and looking to Africa for direction and solutions because we have it all. Yet we always want to copy what is Europe doing, what's America doing. We're always just following. That's not acceptable. So once again, going back to colonization, we must understand that colonization is a system that was brought about with there was a specific outcome that was geared behind colonization. And then the main goal of colonization is to impoverish people. That's the main goal, to impoverish. Because what happened is that people came from Europe and all over, and the intention was to make sure that let's get as much resources as we can, let's get as much minerals as we can, let's get as much out of the environment and the people as we can, and then go away. But then this doesn't just happen. You have to put systems in place, first of all, to impoverish people. Right? I want to touch on the 3 main elements of impoverishment. So if you have notes, please, don't just come here to listen, right? Don't just come here to listen, because you will listen, and then today you will remember, tomorrow you remember, the day after maybe, and then after that it's gone. It's all gone. Learn to start recording things. It is through recording that we can start to innovate and start to mull over these things. So please take notes. Even if you think it's rubbish, you can throw it away tomorrow, right? So the first element of impoverishment is you take away people's resources. So let me cast your mind back to the 1900s. There was a problem in society at that point in time. We have European society, we have our African society, right? Now there were two main elements that prompted this intensification of colonization. First of all, the Europeans needed some cheap labor to start going to the mines, to mine diamonds, to mine gold, right? That's what they needed it for. Secondly, agriculture. The Europeans were starting to compete with African farmers, and they were not doing a very good job of it. African farmers were doing a much, much better job of it. Actually, there's a book that I can refer you to called Why Nations Fail, that gives a very good account of our history and what was going on in that time, but I can't go into that right now because of time. So in essence, you have this problem of agriculture where Europeans cannot compete, and also this need for cheap labor. So how do you kill two birds with one stone? First of all, you take the majority of the population, 80%, you give them 20% of the land. Land that you cannot farm, mind you. Look at it this way. In those days, when we still used to have land, you could farm, you could make a way for yourself. You were independent, you didn't have to go and work. How do you convince someone who's working, who's making a living for themselves farming, to go into a mine and to risk their life? It doesn't work, right? So what do? You impoverish. So you put them in 20% of the land. They can't farm, they can't do the activities that they used to sustain themselves. In other words, now they're dependent. Once you've impoverished them and taken away their land, you also take away competition in terms of agriculture. So now white people or Europeans were running the market in terms of agriculture. So yeah, these people who are impoverished, they need to get jobs. They need to get money. They take these jobs in the mine. The second part of colonization. There we go, number two. The second part. So first is impoverishing the people. Secondly, your societal structures. You start ruining the societal structures. In other words, you break down the society. How do you do that? Within this 20% of land, you take all the men. You throw them into the mines. You're breaking families in the process. Have you ever heard of something called migrant labor? Right? So in other words, a man who works over here now has to go over there to find some kind of construction project. He leaves his entire family behind. The father is gone. Secondly, you place them in places where you place them outside of the city, far away from everything else. So now you have mothers who stay behind most of the time doing domestic work. For who? For madams in the cities. So they leave their children as well to go to the cities. Waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, coming back, let's say at 10, 8 o'clock. Who's raising the children? Who's there for the children? Who's there for the society? So you start breaking the social structures in the society. Third of all, the mind. I want some volunteers, some 4 young volunteers. You 4 look sleepy, come to the front. Come to the front, the 4 of you. 1, 2, 3, 4, both of you. I don't miss it, guys. Encourage them. So you go in the mind. Let's start over here. So yeah, the 4 of you stand over here. Let me start. If we count from the year 1900 up to 1993, that's 93 years, right? My math is correct, no? Yeah. Some of you don't know, you just like, right? It's 93 years. They say a generation is between 20 and 25 years. What that means is that at the age of 25, she will most likely have her first child. Hopefully not 16 or 15, but at the age of 25, more or less the first child. And then this child of hers will also have another child at the age of 25, more or less, and so on and so forth, right? So let's do this. This child is born into the system of colonization. All this child is used to seeing is a people suffering. She's used to seeing a people in a certain kind of environment, a certain kind of setting that is just depressing, right? Nothing of means. There's no education. Everything's just been taken away. That's the first child. She gives birth to another one. Same story. All they see is just the negatives, nothing positive. This person is not seeing examples in society of people who are coming up and making something of themselves. Remember in 1940 something, where they now started to make acts with regards to education, that a black person can no longer attend mainstream education, they must now attend Bantu education. So there's a disadvantage that happened in the process. We have this notion or this feeling that as black people somehow we are inferior to white people. And that's inherently wrong. It's nonsense. There's a symptom of colonization. It came from somewhere. It didn't just come out of thin air. It came from somewhere. And it comes from a history and a culture of being put in a position where you are disadvantaged, where you don't have resources. This person gives birth to another child again. Same story. Same mentality. This person is able to think that you are not good enough. You will never amount to anything in life. Your job is to serve the European. You are a second-rate citizen, a second-rate individual. Imagine that. So now that's how many? 1, 2, 3 generations. Where this thinking has the time to now go in and sink and settle. She gives birth to another person, another child. Sorry. You look strong, you'll be fine. Right? She gives birth to another child. So now, over these 4 generations, all that's happening is that this mentality is getting entrenched. Harder and harder and harder. By the time you come here, this person can't dream anymore. She can't aspire anymore. In essence, they've been mentally damaged. And then we're led to think that, no, you black people, you are inferior in some way. No. There were systems that were put in place to disadvantage us. That's why we see this result, where we're the ones who are suffering. Right? So, like I said, the first component, again, you impoverish by taking away resources. Second, you destroy the societal structures. Third of all, you start attacking the mind. Have you ever seen it in that, like this thing, like Pretoria girls, where they say, hey, we're not allowed to wear our black hair. Yes. And hey, Lord, you may sit, please. I'm about to get emotional, you may sit. Thank you very much. I had a conversation with a man from, I think it was the University of Virginia Commonwealth. This guy is black, American, and he says to me, Trevor, I want to understand what is black beauty. That's why I came here to the motherland, to Africa. They all say that the motherland, Africa, and I'm thinking, really? And then he started speaking to me and elaborating why he was saying all of this. He said that, Trevor, I do not know what my ethnicity, my proper ethnicity is. I do not know what my language is. They brought me here, I was given a new surname. I was given a new language. I was given a perception of beauty. That beauty looks like this. Beauty looks European with the small cute features, in essence. That you as a black person, you and your hair, your curly rough hair, it's ugly. Right? Am I lying? I'm not lying about anything of this, right? So this is also part of the degradation of the mind. I make you feel better about who you are at your core. Because if I can do that, I can start controlling you. I can direct your life. You will always become a resource that I can use however I feel like using you. Right? Now let's speak about something called the collective unconscious. The collective unconscious is a repository of biases, myths, and the collective attitudes of a group. Have you ever heard it when people say, when there's something like nice that's been designed, they're like, yo, this is a balloon, this is a white person's thing. Yeah. It's nice things, right? Yeah. Where does that kind of stuff come from? Where does it come from? If you want something done properly, you must go to Germans, they know how to do their thing. What are us Africans known for? Hey, nail on the head. Bro, witchcraft.
Numbers.
Right?
The binary system came from here.
What was that?
The binary system, numbers. We wouldn't have computers today if it wasn't for Africa.
I disagree. I agree with that. That's what I said. That's going to be like God forbid.
The whole binary system. So you think about something like computer programming. Yes. What the whole world runs on today, that came from here.
Amen.
You know, so, and I mean, you know.
Hey, sorry, I've just got 20 minutes. I've only got 20 minutes. I have to use it effectively. Yeah? Right? So I'm saying that, once again, the degradation of the mind. We're putting things in place to make us feel inferior. Second of all, the collective unconscious. These ideas that we have, things that we think without even thinking that we're thinking them. That's how deep it is. It happens at an unconscious level. We're not even aware of it. Let me ask a question to the gentleman over there. I like you. I like your shirt as well. Right? If I say to you, nurse, are you thinking male or female?
Female.
Why?
Because generally nurses are female.
Generally nurses are female, but do you agree that there's also male nurses?
Yes.
But we automatically think female. If I were to say to you, young lady with a beautiful hair all out, yeah, no, you in the dark jacket, you, yes, you. Let me even come closer so you can see that I'm talking to you. If I were to say entrepreneur, do you think male or female? Male. No. But then there are female entrepreneurs, are they not?
Yeah. They are.
So we receive this, what we call the collective unconscious, we receive this from our society, from our surroundings. We have no choice in this, we don't choose it. Is this how our society is set up? We just receive these things, we download them unwittingly. Whether you like it or not, you just download them. Right? Same as like I was saying, those 4 examples. You just download this way of thinking because it's all that you see. Yeah. It's all that you see. Now, how do we destroy this? How do we break out of this? In my mind, there's three things. Three things. Vision, mission, belief, or confidence. For those of you that go to church, let me phrase it differently. Faith, works, belief, right? Vision, mission, confidence, all the same thing, just different terms. So when I say vision, what do you think of?
Dream.
Yeah?
Dream. For dream.
Infrared, yeah?
For dream.
Dream. I love that. I love that so much. The Bible says what faith is the substance of things that are hoped for, but the evidence that which is unseen. Right? So I'm hoping for something over here, and I'm casting my mind into the future, and I see something here. There's nothing there, but I see something over here. Right?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is this. Where you are right now, start having a vision. Start seeing, where do I want to go? What do I want to do? And the best part about this is that it's endless. There's nothing that you can't do. Right? Let us understand one thing. These biases that are in our collective unconscious, we have a choice. It's either we keep on living according to them, or we just stop and say, guys, you know what? Let me start choosing. It's about time we start living and start creating a life for ourselves. What do you see? What do you want to do? What do you want to become? Nothing's stopping you. We have something called Google. There's nothing that you can't find.
Yeah.
There's everything on Google. People are saying, hey, fees must fall. All I'm saying is this, guys. If you really want to do something, Google is there, you can get it. There's a guy called Ludwig Marachani, I think it is, the guy who designed Dry Bath. He did this just using a cell phone. From a very poor background in Limpopo, by the way. All he had was a cell phone. That's all he had. He wrote all his ideas on this thing. He sent it to a lawyer, it got patented, now he's a multi-millionaire. At the age of 26, I think it is, 26 years old, somewhere there. He started when he was like 20. Just because of Google, the internet is so powerful. Right? So once we have a vision, once I see where I want to go, now I must start doing something to get there. Many of us dream and then that's where it ends, right? But now, what are the steps that I must take to make sure that I realize this vision of mine? What do I do every single day? What builds into this place? And it helps to plan like God, because the Bible says God finished everything first and then went back to the beginning. So see yourself completed first, see everything that's there, and then understand, okay, from me to get from where I am currently to this place that I see, what do I need to start doing? What do I need to start getting? What places must I start going to on a Saturday? What seminars must I attend? What books must I read? What topics must I research? What friends do I need to leave behind me? Who have I outgrown? What things do I need to stop doing as well? Once we have a place that we see ourselves going to, and we have the roadmap, the path to get there, what we need is to believe. I once heard a beautiful quote that said that in order to achieve great things, we must not only dream, but plan. Not only plan, but also believe. Now I want to touch on confidence. Remember, vision, mission, confidence / belief. Now what is confidence? May I say one person? Yes, you. Why not?
Being comfortable with being comfortable being yourself.
Being comfortable within yourself. I like that. I like that very much.
Starts inside.
Yes. That is entirely accurate. When we break down the topic of confidence, there are two components that make it. The first one being our self-efficacy. How effective am I as a person? Secondly, it's our self-concept. How do I see myself? So, how effective am I? How do I see myself? Those two elements. Now, self-efficacy is, how you can measure efficacy is what do you do? What have you done? What have you completed? I want you guys to do this exercise for yourselves. Go home and make a list of everything you've accomplished in the past 5 years. Just make sure, even if it's one or two things. The point is not about the amount of things. The point is to show you that you are a capable individual. You can do things, you can influence, and you can achieve. That's the point, right? How effective am I? Secondly is your self-concept, which is made up of three things. I know it's a lot of content to take in, but just listen to me. Hopefully something will get through. So it consists of three things in our self-concept. The first thing is, the first thing is, what have I learned from my society? The second thing is, you start to change. It changes and grows. As you become older, you start to get more information, you make better decisions, you make more decisions. So in other words, the way that you thought when you were 8 years old should be different to how you think when you are 20 years old. Because if not, you must raise your hand now, we're going to lay hands on you. We're going to pray that thing out, whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
Lastly, there's one main perception that you have of yourself, and I picture a tree in this case. There's one main perception that you have of yourself that drives everything else that you think of yourself, right? So if you believe that you are great and that you are awesome, a corresponding belief may be that everything I do, I'll succeed, come hell or high water. No matter what the circumstance is, I'll find a way. If there's a problem, I'll find a solution, for example. But now, if your central perception is that I am useless, all you can come up with is problems. That's all. I have a friend that I'm trying to help out who said he's interested in graphic design. So how much time do I have left?
Continue.
Amen. I'll take it. There's a friend that I have who's doing graphic design and so on and so forth, and I wanted to help him realize his dream. So I said to him, you know what? I want to put you in contact with a guy that I know that's doing this right now. He's just letting him mentor you, learn from him, get some software, so on and so forth. I paid for a taxi for him, he went to this guy, got all the stuff. About 2 or 3 weeks later, I'm expecting to hear, Trevor, I've made X amount of progress. Meanwhile, I asked him, hey man, how much progress have you made? That guy gave me 10 excuses back to back, off the top of his head. And I'm thinking, yo, if you could come up with 10 things that are wrong, you couldn't even find one that's good. One solution, one way. You see? It's important that we must understand these effects and break them down and sit with yourself at home and understand what are the things that I believe that I should not believe, that I should not be believing. What should I just leave behind? What should I take forth as my new sense of identity, as my new sense of self-purpose? And I'll leave you with this last point on time. Time is the most valuable resource ever. You can spend money, you can lose it, and you can get it back. Time, once it's gone, it's gone.
It's gone.
Unfortunately, it's gone, right? So what I find in most cases is that you can break time into 3 zones. We have yesterday, we have today, yesterday, today, and then tomorrow. Some of you live in yesterday and then you only have a tomorrow. That's amazing. I'm not sure how you manage that, but all of this. So you have yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Most people do the same thing today that they did yesterday and expect to see something different tomorrow. Principle says what you sow, you will reap. If you do the same thing today, you will receive the same result of yesterday in tomorrow. So unless you change your behavior, unless you change your actions, unless you change what you are doing, you will not see a result. Nothing will change. And I have a course as part of my course that I offer through the Confidence Academy, I have something called a life alignment test. And in this test, it's a matter of coming up with a vision and a mission, and then your plan of what am I doing every single day to make sure that I'm going to reach this place? What am I doing? And then on a Sunday, I want you to look back and say, on Monday, did I accomplish my goals? On Tuesday, did I accomplish it? So what you find is that you actually have a record. You can actually score yourself and find that out of, let's say, 20 tasks that I assigned myself, I completed, let's say, 18 out of 20. That means that you're on the right path, you're going to where you need to be. If you're completing 0 out of 20, that means you're staying in the same place, you are going nowhere. So let's take our time seriously. Let's look where we spend and invest our time. Certain things are nice to have, but the thing is, we're not trying to be like everyone else. Being like everyone else is boring. Be different. And to be different, you must start doing different things with your time. See what everyone else is doing and say, no, I'm going this way. It's as simple as that. With that being said, I do believe that is my time. I will upload this talk onto my channel, The Wild Generation, on YouTube, in case some of you were sleeping or you missed some points that you want to go over. So thank you very much for your time, and I really appreciate your attention. Thank you very much.